Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on my YouTube channel. My name is Stef. I am the Psychic Soul Empowerment Coach, and if this is your first time tuning into one of my videos, basically what I do as the Psychic Soul Empowerment Coach is I work with spiritual people and spiritual entrepreneurs to help them to do very deep levels of healing known as inner work, shadow work, inner child healing, in order to peel back the layers of limiting beliefs, traumas, fears, and insecurities that they have that are keeping them from being who they truly are on a soul level, on a higher self level. And as I support my clients with these deeper levels of healing and we peel back these layers, they're able to then much more easily embody who they truly are and show up much more authentically, create their lives much more consciously and powerfully and gracefully. And so that's how I help people. On my YouTube channel, I do videos on the topics of mindset, manifestation, healing, spiritual entrepreneurship, spiritual activism. I share my own experiences and just whatever else I feel called to share here on my channel. So these are topics that interest you and you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and hit the little bell notification button and change your settings to all so that you're always notified of when I upload a video, because I don't have a consistent upload schedule. I just show up whenever. And I wouldn't want you to miss out on any kinds of videos that I have that might be valuable to you on your journey. So my apologies first and foremost if I look a little bit crazy right now. I feel tired. I'm not too tired because I meditated, but last night I had like a little sleepover with one of my best friends and we stayed up till like 4 a.m. and I got 4 hours of sleep. And yeah, I'm just waiting for it to be nighttime so I can go to bed. But I felt called to do a video on today's topic, which is sharing my own experiences of how I have dramatically changed over the years as I've stepped into my power as an empath, and just speaking a little bit to that today, okay? So if you have not yet heard of my new program, Bulletproof Empath, I will link that up here somewhere in the cards for you to go and check out that last video. But it's taken a lot of mistakes, a lot of healing work, a lot of, just being willing to face my shadows and step into my power and, do things that once felt scary to me or whatever, and just like really start becoming who I really am on this deeper spiritual level to then become a bulletproof empath in the world. It's been quite the journey, and I want to share that with you to help you kind of understand a little bit of what that's looked like for me. Just if this message resonates with you in any way, that to know and understand that it's possible for you to shift from being disempowered as an empath to really powerfully stepping into your power and becoming bulletproof, okay? So that you can really show up powerfully in the world as an empath and do your light work to a much greater degree because you're empowered in this way. So before I really went deep into the spiritual path and started doing all this healing work, I basically showed up in the world unconsciously from my ego that had all these stories, all these traumas, these limiting beliefs, insecurities, all these different things. And I didn't realize it at the time. You don't know better until you know better. Like you live your life unconscious of these things until you shine a light on them, and then you become finally conscious of the fact that, hey, you got these issues that you got to work through, right? And so, that was my journey. Was most of my life I lived it from this place of woundedness. And, that woundedness then caused me to be very disempowered as an empath, as a sensitive person. And so I'm going to talk about those things a little bit, starting off with the fact that I used to be like a massive people pleaser. And being such a people pleaser because of my woundedness, my, traumas and things, it caused me to have really poor boundaries with people. Like it was hard for me to set those boundaries and say no or to ask for what I needed or preferred instead, because I felt all kinds of way for asking for what I needed or wanted, or saying no to people, and then having those poor boundaries then caused me to overgive a lot to people, and then feeling resentful, bitter because I overgave, or sometimes I felt like people took advantage of me, or like the support that I gave to people wasn't reciprocated. And sometimes I would feel really used by people because I would give so much of myself. I would do so much because I didn't have these boundaries. And other times, these poor boundaries resulted in having people like walk all over me because I couldn't stand up for myself. I couldn't, like really own my power and command the respect that I deserved. And it was really hard to just have these really good, healthy, balanced, harmonious relationships in my life. And it took a toll on me emotionally. Obviously, I had all this guilt, this shame, this fear, just all these different things. It took a toll on me mentally as well because, my thoughts, my mind would just like be out of control because I would think all these things like, oh, if I say no, then they're going to think this or this is going to happen, or if I ask for what I need or what I want, then this is going to happen. And like my mind would go crazy, especially as an Aquarius air sign. I would go into all these crazy like scenarios in my head, and it would just like take such a mental toll on me energetically. Obviously, when you're being overwhelmed emotionally and mentally and stuff, like it just really brings you down energetically as well, especially when you feel like people are taking from you or you're giving so much, like all of your energy is being given to other people, then you just feel drained, and there's a lot of talk in the spiritual community about like energy vampires and all this other stuff. And, to a certain extent that is true. There are people that purposefully like try to take of your energy, but a lot of times people do that unconsciously. And they do that unconsciously because you allow it, unconsciously, like me, when you don't have good boundaries, like people would take from me, take, and they were taking this energy from me because I had poor boundaries, and it wasn't necessarily them purposely trying to like do this to me. It was just because I wasn't in my power and I was giving so much of myself away to others, and so that's been something that I've had to like dramatically work on over the years, again and again, to many different levels, to let go of those people-pleasing ways and really just be in my power in different types of relationships, in different areas of my life, etc., to finally be able to restore, balance and harmony in my relationships, in my energy and my emotional, mental, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, like all these different things, so working on myself and doing this deep inner work that I'm always talking about helped me to correct all those things so that I wouldn't continue to overgive. I wouldn't continue to feel used. I wouldn't continue to feel drained, or like people walked all over me, they didn't respect me, or like I was just surrounded by toxic people who always just, took advantage of me in some kind of way. I had to work on myself in order to correct all those things, right? And it's been absolutely life-changing. Like, it's been mind-blowing, honestly, to see how different my life has changed since working on myself, like, and I'm sure everyone can relate on some level, like when you're empathic and you deeply care and you care about the well-being of other people, especially people close to you, and you feel like they're, taking from you, or, like it's hard to say no to them, and you just have all these things that you're working through, right? When you can let that go and just have peace inside of yourself and know that there's nothing wrong or bad for, having these boundaries or asking for what you want, or, correcting whatever you got to correct. Like when you work through those things and you're finally free from all the guilt, the shame, the worry, the stress, or whatever, your life experience is just completely different. It's completely different. And it's amazing. It's amazing really for me to see like just how much better my life is, my quality of life is, and my relationships are, and how much more ease I have in my day-to-day or my relationships or whatever, because I corrected all these things, because I was willing to do the inner work to shift all of that, But it took me being willing to work on myself and recognize, what was it within me that was causing me to be a disempowered empath. and, adjusting that, fixing that, correcting that so that I could finally be empowered, okay? So that's the first thing. When I was a disempowered empath, I was very easily triggered a lot of times. Empathic people, they feel things very intensely or easily. They're very sensitive. And so if someone came to me with like anger or frustration, especially directly like towards me, it would trigger me and set me off, and I would like respond with that same frustration or anger or whatever. Or if something was happening or whatever that I felt was like too much or a lot, I would feel like dramatically overwhelmed. And so I would get like easily triggered in this ways. Like emotions just felt super, super, super intense. And it's interesting because, along my journey, I shifted from being very numb to emotions to a certain extent. Like I was cold. I was cold-blooded. What people stereotypically think of Aquarius people. Like I didn't have any emotions back in the day, but it wasn't that I didn't have emotions. It was the fact that, in my youth, when I was very young and I was going through very traumatic things, I guess I was so sensitive that I had to learn to numb my emotions in order to survive, in order to not be in as much pain emotionally. Because again, empathic people feel things very intensely. And so I became numb. And things like just, I wasn't able to feel things. I was very numb to certain things. And as I went on this journey, though, of healing and personal development and working through my things, started working through that to no longer numb myself and to start feeling again. But then, kind of went on the other end where I was like feeling intensely and I felt very hypersensitive. And so certain things would, like emotions would start feeling so super intense for me, overwhelming, and it would just feel like too much. It would feel unbearable, right? And so that's sometimes what I had to go through on this journey, is like dealing with these emotions. And, I would go through dark nights of the soul or bouts of depression along my journey with things that I was going through at the time, so certain soul lessons and experiences. And they would trigger me so strongly, and the emotions would just feel so, so, so deeply like intense. Like I would feel like I was dying a lot of times. And I was like, I'm ready to leave this planet. Like I don't want to be here anymore. Like it was really, really challenging then. And so that's how it felt though when I was a disempowered empath, was like my emotions would get the best of me. They would feel like ridiculously intense and overwhelming. And because they would feel so strongly to me and I struggled to get out of them or move through them, process them, whatever you want to call it, and it would just like continue to weigh on me and weigh on me and weigh on me. And then this ended up building up to like emotional fatigue, where like the emotions were just super, just so intense. I was just so tired. And sometimes I would, get so tired to the point where I felt numb, and I would like spiral into addictive behaviors, and everyone's addictive behaviors is different, in order to cope with the intensity of emotions. For me, it was sometimes through food, especially earlier, like in my journey. I would binge eat or overeat, or I would just watch a lot of TV. And I would like procrastinate like hell just watching TV, And so all of that kind of stuff, like the emotional intensity, would kind of cause me to spiral in these ways, where emotions just felt so intense. I would probably get numb. I would try to numb it with certain addictive behaviors, or it would just feel so, so overwhelming to the point where I just felt like this emotional fatigue. I would be tired, and I would reach a kind of spiritual burnout. Like there have been several points in my journey, it seems like at least once a year, every year. For the last few years, but luckily I don't think it's been the case 2021, but like all the years prior, like I've reached points of where I would have like this spiritual burnout, where like everything was just so intense, too much, my journey was just too crazy, and I would just be over it. And I'm just like, I'm ready, I'm done, like I don't want to do this anymore, I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to go, and that's what can happen, when you're a disempowered empath. you get caught up in these things, you feel the spiritual burnout, you feel the numbness, you get caught up in the addictions. There's just so much intensity there, and that's when you're very disempowered. Like you stay stuck in those things. You get caught up in those emotional, like the emotional overwhelm until you reach these behaviors or states. So that luckily, because I've been working on myself significantly and I've worked through a lot of things, like that hasn't been the case. I am able to flow with life much more easily, to go down my spiritual path with so much more ease and grace. And, I don't really have these dark nights of the soul or like depression. Like it's not like intense like it used to be. I'm able to flow with it and process it whenever I feel these things coming up for me, And so it's been an easier journey. I've had an easier time because I'm so much more empowered now. So when these things come around, they don't trip me up like they used to, and it makes the world of a difference. Like it really does, especially like if you're an empath, you know how intense things can get, and it can feel like the end of the world, like you're dying, like your entire world is crashing down all around you and you're helpless and you just feel incredibly powerless and you just want to break down, but it's a completely different experience when some of the things that used to trip you up, yeah, they might be impacting you, but it doesn't feel like that anymore, like as intense as it once used to, And because it doesn't feel like that intense, like you have such an easier time and you feel free and you feel even like impressed or shocked, I guess, or surprised, like, wow, like this isn't destroying me. This isn't, this doesn't feel like death happening right now to me, So that's been my journey, with how I handle things now. It's just so different and so much better and lighter, and freer. And I just have an easier time with my journey and the things that I'm going through as a result, And like I said, it's a completely different experience and it's absolutely amazing. So, that's what I've had to go through. And what else here? When I was a disempowered empath, I just, like I said earlier, I had a lot of toxic relationship issues, like just dynamics. And, because of my woundedness, I felt responsible for people's problems. I felt responsible for their emotional, mental well-being. I took on a lot of things that weren't mine. And, that was also because I had certain levels of unhealthy compassion. As empaths, we're very compassionate towards others, very understanding because we feel their pain, we feel their struggles, we can really relate or just feel. And sometimes that ability to feel for others resulted in me having unhealthy compassion, and I would let people slide with things that I didn't need to be letting them slide, on or for, whatever the preposition is. And that would result in me then unintentionally getting caught up in toxic dynamics with people who would take advantage of me and, resulted in manipulative tactics used on me and me being gaslit and all these different things and just getting caught up, with the wrong people. And like when I found myself with these toxic people around me taking advantage of me because I saw the good in them, saw the light in them. That's something that we do as empaths as well. Like we see the good in others. We have compassion for them, understanding. We give them the benefit of the doubt, all this other stuff. But it can be to our own detriment. And I definitely did that, which resulted in me getting caught up in a toxic relationship that you might have heard me mention in previous videos, in my last video. And yeah, like once you get caught up in a toxic relationship, like that is a crazy experience, learning to get out of that. And I got caught up in that toxic relationship because I was a disempowered empath. And once I was able to step into my power again and, leave that relationship and shift things and stuff, like I was able to recognize, how I allowed myself to get caught up in these things because I wasn't, being in my power. I wasn't setting these boundaries or trusting myself or whatever it was, that then gave way to these things. And so that has changed significantly, like because of all the inner work I've been doing. Like I don't get caught up with these toxic people. Like I can recognize now so much more easily like the toxicity, and I know how to navigate it. I don't get upset or triggered or whatever, I just like handle it like a boss. I'm like, okay, cool, setting these boundaries. You're not going to get to me. You're not going to affect me, whatever. I'm not afraid. I'm not living in fear. I'm not angry at these people if they try to take advantage or whatever. None of that, I show up like a boss, and, that's something that a lot of empaths, I think, don't do. Because I've seen in the spiritual community with past videos that people do and stuff, like a lot of times disempowered empaths handle things in a very disempowered way when it comes to like toxic people and stuff. Like it comes from a very fear-based place where they feel like, oh, they have to block all these people. They have to like get rid of them. They have to be like super aggressive or whatever, forceful with like making sure that these people don't take advantage of them and all this other stuff. And a lot of times, like when you do it from that, depending on person to person, you have to like tune into yourself. But a lot of times it's coming from a fear-based place, and it's you trying to protect yourself. And that's not really a truly empowered empath. And so as I've worked on myself, like I've really been able to become a bulletproof empath to the point where like I don't have to be aggressive. I don't have to be forceful. I don't have to necessarily cut these people off unless it's absolutely necessary, just because like I'm really in my power internally. So I'm not like afraid of these people anymore, or, afraid of these past things like repeating themselves or whatever, because like I got this, it's a completely different experience when you feel so strong and secure inside of yourself to handle these things instead of like trying to do all these outward external things to try to, protect yourself. Does that make sense? Hope it does. And so, that's been a very powerful shift inside of myself to like really feel safe inside of myself to handle difficult people or toxic people, and just super empowering and eye-opening to know like, oh, people are not going to take advantage of me again because I know better now and I'm stronger and I got this, So it's just been absolutely powerful for me to recognize that, to recognize my growth, and to recognize like that I feel safe and secure inside of myself and I can handle myself no matter what people are stepping up to me with, So that's been really absolutely amazing. And then, a couple of things that I want to mention before wrapping up this video is that when I was a disempowered empath, I used to be very heavily impacted by astrological phenomena. So when there would be like crazy things with the cosmos, I'm not an astrologer, but like crazy things happening with the planets and the energies or whatever, like a lot of times I would feel like super drained or super like overwhelmed or something. And like there's a time and place for those things, to have an impact on you on certain levels. But like I just felt like overwhelmed, like when you see online people saying like, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, and they would be like all scared about Mercury retrograde and that kind of stuff, or like it's, the Lion's Gate or whatever, all these different things. I used to be fearful of that, and I used to be significantly impacted by these things. And because I've worked on myself so much, like when these astrological phenomena come around, like I'm usually not impacted. Or if I am, it's like very light, and it's because it serves a purpose, my body's going through things or whatever. But yeah, like I'm just not as impacted anymore by this astrological phenomenon like I once used to, because I'm so much more in my power, and I am so embodied on all the levels of my being, where whatever's happening with the cosmos just doesn't impact my body the way it does for other people. Like it doesn't impact my energy levels or whatever, my physical well-being or whatever, the way that it does for other people. Does that make sense? And so I'm so much more empowered in that sense, and I'm not fearful of the astrological phenomena, and I just handle it, like boss, and I just keep it going. So, that's been absolutely amazing, because before I used to feel like at the mercy of the planets sometimes, or whatever was happening, like, oh, this energy, like I can't concentrate, or I don't have the energy for this or whatever, and I used to give my power away in that sense, to what was happening with the planets and stuff. And, since becoming an empowered empath and a bulletproof empath, I've been able to just handle that with so much more ease and grace, and these things don't really impact me anymore. So it's been really awesome to see that, that, yeah, these things kind of like, I'm experiencing a completely different reality than other people, It's like we're all coexisting here on planet Earth, but we're existing in like different levels of like reality, and our experience is going to be completely different from one person to the next. And I'm just so much more empowered, and connected to who I really am and my truth. And so these things don't weigh down on me like they once used to, and that's been really awesome. And the last thing I want to talk about here is, having trouble discerning which feelings and thoughts were mine versus other people. And, that is something I had to work through in toxic relationships. Like, is this my stuff or other people's stuff? It's definitely something I've had to work through in terms of like work relationships. Sometimes clients or potential clients would come to me and I can very intensely like feel their stuff, and then it would make me question like, wait, is this my stuff? Because I would be working through similar things sometimes. I'm like, is this mine? And it would cause all this confusion, like, wait, do I have to still heal through this and work through this? Because I would think like, oh, I've processed this stuff. And then I would come into contact with someone and they would be working through those things and it would feel intense in them. And so when I connect with them, then I would feel those things again through them, but it wasn't my own stuff, it was their stuff. And then it would send me into like this confusion of like, wait, is this my stuff? Do I still have healing to do or things to do or whatever? Like what? And it would just like be difficult to really know and discern, the difference. And it would just make my journey so much more complicated and a greater struggle and all this other stuff. So yeah, since becoming an empowered empath, it's like really so much easier for me to recognize like what is mine versus what is others, and to disconnect and to have just healthy boundaries when it comes to energy. It's been incredible. And something that I teach to my clients, especially in certain programs like Remembering Who You Are or like my spiritual business programs, is that the more that you do this healing work and things like that, like the more sensitive you become energetically, and you become more empathic. You feel more, and it's been interesting because I've noticed that like I'm so sensitive now because of all the healing work I've been doing that it's very easy for me to take on energy. Like the other day while I was filming a video for TikTok, I asked the caretaker that works for my grandmother, I was like, hey, can I borrow your glasses to do this thing? I need glasses to, imitate a smart person or whatever. And this person handed me their glasses. I put on their glasses and I took a few takes. It wasn't that long. It must have been like a few minutes, but either way, like I started having like such a massive migraine, like my head just hurted afterwards. And I was like, it's probably because of their vision, like their glasses. And that's like messed with my vision and that's like hurting my eyes. So it's okay. I'm going to let it go. It's going to go away soon. But it kept persisting. And then I realized like, oh, I think I've took on their energy through their glasses. I think this is what it is. And I released the energy, and then the headache, the thing finally went away. And so I've noticed in myself, like as I go about this journey, the spiritual journey, and I do these deeper healings and I become even more sensitive to energy, it's easier for me to like take on energy, feel energy and stuff. And so it's very important for me to like know and discern like what is my energy versus others, and how to create those strong boundaries, etc., in order to not be impacted by the energies around me. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of empaths choose to become like recluses or hermits, or they don't like people. They stay away from people and stuff because they feel energy so intensely and it's overwhelming, and they feel like, oh my God, like I don't know how to deal with these people's energy, so I have to like isolate myself to protect myself so it's not too much for me. And you don't have to do that. When you're doing that, you're not an empowered empath. You're very disempowered. because you don't have strong boundaries. And so, that's something that I've helped clients with in the past who feel very overwhelmed. They can't go to certain places where there's a lot of people because the energy there just feels too much for them. I've had to help them work through their things so that they can go out in the world and function like normal people. And when you do that, you take your power back and you become, like a bulletproof empath, because you're able to walk around on planet Earth being a very highly sensitive being, but not being impacted or weighed down because of your sensitivity, And so that has been my journey as, transitioning from a disempowered empath to an empowered empath. And now I'm a bulletproof empath, and it's so much easier for me to live my life and deal with certain things on my spiritual path, my life in general, business, relationships, whatever, because, I have a good handle on my sensitivity, and I know how to, work through these things or navigate these things with so much more ease and grace. So that's what I'm going to be teaching those of you who decide to join me for Bulletproof Empath. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is my new program that I'm launching. It's going to start next Friday, October 15th. That's when we kick off. And this is a powerful program that's nearly 3 months long, and we're going to be meeting once a week there, and I'm going to be bringing forward these teachings to help you to work through the things you have going on within inside of yourself that are causing you to have poor boundaries, that are causing you to be overwhelmed with, the energy or whatever's happening in your life, for the world or whatever it is that's taking such a big toll on you, and to work through those things so that you can have strong, healthy boundaries on the many levels of your being. And as a result, become this very powerful, empowered empath where you're just basically bulletproof, and you don't have to feel like your sensitivity is a hindrance anymore to you. It's actually your superpower. And, that's the whole purpose of Bulletproof Empath, is to really help you to understand that you are like a superhero, but you have to get a handle on your gifts. And getting a handle on your gifts means doing the inner work and working through your stuff in order to basically I don't know how to describe it. The image I'm getting is basically like a force field that has a lot of holes in it, and it's all these holes in it around your aura, your electromagnetic field, that's allowing all this energy to come into you and impact you. And so by doing the inner work, you're patching up these holes so that the outside world doesn't have to be overwhelming to you, and you can have your little bubble around you, your electromagnetic field, be strong, and you can just go about the world being a badass, right? And so that's the purpose of Bulletproof Empath and what we're going to be doing. And right now it's at a very highly affordable price. So if this is something that speaks to you today, if you resonated in any kind of way and you feel like this is a good fit for you, I really would love to support you. The link to Bulletproof Empath will be in the comments of this video, pinned to the top of this video on YouTube, for you to go click on that and go to the sign up page and check out. If you have any questions, reach out to me on my social media. That will be pinned in the comments as well, for you to reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook and ask me any questions you may have. But yeah, that's basically it. So I'm really looking forward to those of you joining me in Bulletproof Empath. I cannot wait to support you and to see your tremendous growth and empowerment at the end of these, nearly 3 months that we're going to be working together, and to see how your life changes for the better as a result of you choosing to empower yourself. So that's all I have to say to you today. Thank you so much for your time. And if you've enjoyed this video today and you've enjoyed hearing my journey and how I have transformed, then give this video a thumbs up, a like wherever you're watching from. Drop me a comment in the comments below with anything you want to share with me based on what I said in this video. And definitely follow me on the social medias, because I have lots of fun, awesome content for you today. I don't know why I'm having difficulty speaking. It's probably because Mercury is retrograde right now and I'm in an air sign. But, I got through the video for the most part. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. I will see you soon, and